Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the podium in the Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime, her crisp diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the flowing, iridescent robes of the imperial representatives. The artificial starlight filtering through the crystal dome above cast shifting patterns across the marble-like floor, a deliberate display of the Empire's mastery over light and matter. Yet Sarah refused to be intimidated by the architectural grandeur designed to make other species feel small. "Distinguished members of the Imperial Council," she began, her voice clear and steady. "Humanity comes before you not as supplicants, but as partners in galactic prosperity." Her words triggered a ripple of barely concealed disdain among the Empire's senior diplomats. High Counselor Zextal's secondary breathing slits fluttered in what she had learned was a sign of amusement. The holoprojector hummed to life beside her, displaying trade route data across the known galaxy. Sarah's preparation team had spent months making sure the presentation would be compatible with Imperial technology, while still showcasing humanity's technical competence. Over the past 5 years, Imperial customs authorities have delayed human merchant vessels an average of 300% longer than those of other spacefaring nations. Our evidence suggests this is not merely bureaucratic inefficiency. In the front row, Junior Delegate Marcus Wong, fresh out of the Diplomatic Academy, gave her an encouraging nod. The young man had proven himself invaluable in analyzing imperial trade regulations, finding the subtle discriminations buried in mountains of bureaucratic language. The next series of slides displayed the growing list of restrictions placed on human colonies. "These policies have a clear pattern," Sarah continued, her finger tracing the exponential curve of increasing tariffs. "One that suggests a systematic effort to constrain humanity's economic growth." High Counselor Zextal's crystalline headpiece caught the light as he leaned forward. "Ambassador Chen, surely you understand the Empire's duty to maintain order among newer spacefaring species." His tone carried the patronizing weight of millennia of imperial dominance. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Indeed, Counselor, which is why we've prepared this analysis of imperial trade law spanning the past 1,000 years. She pressed her datapad to advance to the next slide, but instead of changing, the holoprojector flickered and died. The lights in the chamber dimmed momentarily. Sarah felt a subtle vibration through the floor, so faint she might have imagined it. Years of diplomatic training had honed her instincts. Something was wrong. "A minor technical difficulty," one of the Imperial technicians announced, moving toward the podium. "If the ambassador would allow." The chamber's defensive energy field suddenly flared to life, its normally invisible barrier manifesting as a crackling blue web. Sarah's earpiece squealed with interference as the field intensified. She caught a glimpse of Marcus rising from his seat, mouth open in warning. Time seemed to slow. The energy field pulsed, its color shifting from blue to blinding white. Sarah's last thought was of her daughter back on Earth, who had drawn her a good luck card decorated with stars and hearts. The explosion lasted less than a second. When the emergency systems finally activated, extinguishing the residual energy flames, the human diplomatic delegation had been reduced to ash. Only their datapads remained, melted into the floor like tears of chrome. High Counselor Zextal stood slowly, brushing a speck of dust from his ceremonial robes. "A tragic malfunction," he announced to the stunned chamber. "The Empire extends its deepest condolences to Earth. A full investigation will be conducted, of course." His secondary breathing slits fluttered once more. In the ensuing chaos, no one noticed a small maintenance drone disconnecting from the chamber's security network. No one sought to transmit a brief burst of encrypted data to a seemingly defunct communications satellite. And no one suspected that humanity's response would shake the foundations of the galaxy. The United Nations General Assembly Hall in New York had never been so silent. The usual whispers of diplomatic conversation died as the holographic display activated, showing security footage recovered from Nexus Prime. The timestamp marked it as 48 hours before Ambassador Chen's death. David Chen, Sarah's husband, and the UN's chief of xenotechnology, stood rigid at the podium. His grief was hidden behind a mask of professional composure as he narrated the evidence. These Imperial technicians accessed the defensive systems at 300 local time. Note their use of override codes that weren't in the official maintenance schedule. The footage showed 3 figures in Imperial maintenance uniforms methodically adjusting crystal arrays within the chamber's security grid. One of them carried a device that wasn't part of standard Imperial technology. Our AI analysis confirms they modified the containment protocols. David continued, his voice steady despite the image of his wife's murderers on screen. The field wasn't meant to contain threats. It was calibrated to. He paused, swallowing hard. To ensure maximum casualties. In the front row, Marcus Wong shifted in his hover chair, the only survivor of the diplomatic mission, thanks to a bout of quantum flu that had kept him planetside. His hands clenched the armrests as he watched his colleagues' killers at work. The Imperial ambassador, Kexley, rose from his observer's seat. This is clearly doctored footage. The Empire has already expressed its regrets over this tragic accident. We have offered generous compensation to the families involved. Compensation. The word cut through the hall like a blade. Admiral Helena Santos of the Earth Defense Fleet stepped forward, her dark eyes fixed on Kexley. Let me show you what your empire considers an accident. A hologram shifted to display a new series of documents. These were recovered by our quantum decryption team. Orders, signed by members of the Imperial High Council, discussing the need to contain the human problem before we become another Arcturus situation, whatever that means. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as more documents appeared, each one damning. Trade restrictions, military assessments, contingency plans for human expansion. The Empire had been preparing to put humanity in its place for years. Kexley's breathing slits flared in agitation. These documents are clearly fabrications. The Empire would never. We found them in your own quantum archives, Marcus interrupted, his voice carrying the weight of personal loss. The same archives you claimed were unhackable. Turns out humanity's primitive quantum computing is more advanced than you thought. The assembly erupted in controlled chaos as delegates conferred with their governments. Admiral Santos raised her hand for silence, and the hall gradually stilled. Members of the United Nations, she began, for the past decade, Earth's combined military and scientific communities have been preparing for this possibility. Operation Nemesis was designed as a contingency we hoped never to use. But the Empire has forced our hand. The hologram shifted one final time, displaying a document that made the Imperial ambassador's scales pale. It was a declaration of war, already signed by every member nation of Earth. Not a limited conflict. Not a punitive action. Total war. The Empire believes they can treat us like children, Admiral Santos continued. They think we'll accept their condescension, their restrictions, their murder of our people. They're wrong. In the observation gallery, representatives from other galactic species watched with growing interest. The Arcturan delegates' tentacles twisted in what might have been approval. David Chen stepped forward again, placing a small quantum crystal on the podium. This contains our response to the Empire's accident. A complete analysis of their vulnerabilities, their military deployments, and our strategy to dismantle their dominion piece by piece. The Imperial ambassador's translator struggled to keep up with his protests, but nobody was listening. The vote was a formality. Every hand in the chamber raised in unanimous agreement. As Kexley stormed out of the chamber, Marcus Wong activated his hoverchair's comm system. The signal would reach Earth's hidden fleets within minutes. Operation Nemesis was go. The Empire had fought to teach humanity a lesson. They were about to learn one instead. Captain Maya Patel stood on the bridge of the EFS Nightshade, her stealth cruiser floating silent as space itself above the Imperial shipyards of Centauri Prime. The massive construction docks stretched for kilometers below, their angular forms illuminated by the work lights of third-shift maintenance crews. Not a single alarm had been triggered by her ship's presence. "All ships report ready, Captain," Lieutenant Park whispered, though sound couldn't travel through space. Old habits died hard when running silent. Operation Nemesis strike teams are in position across all 30 targets. Maya allowed herself a small smile. The Empire's quantum detection grid pulsed steadily, scanning for threats and finding none. Their vaunted technology couldn't detect what their scientists had deemed impossible: human ships using dimensional displacement rather than traditional cloaking fields. "Time check," she ordered, watching the synchronized countdown on her neural display. "T-3 minutes to simultaneous strike," Park responded. "Ghost Fleet reporting full ammunition load. Quantum torpedoes primed." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, each member having rehearsed this mission countless times in simulation. Humanity had spent years preparing for this moment, hiding their true capabilities behind a facade of technological inferiority. "T-2 minutes," Park announced. "Target packages uploaded. Primary focus on their antimatter containment facilities." Below them, an Imperial patrol cruiser passed within 1,000 meters of their position. Its sensors swept through the space occupied by the Nightshade without registering anything unusual. The Empire's confidence in their technological superiority had become their greatest weakness. T-1 minute. All ships acknowledge final strike authorization. Maya's neural link pulsed as confirmations came in from the other 29 stealth cruisers positioned above Imperial shipyards across the galaxy. The timing had to be perfect. A simultaneous strike to prevent any warning from reaching the other targets. "Execute," Maya commanded as the countdown hit 0. The Nightshade's dimensional displacement field collapsed, bringing the ship into normal space, mere kilometers above the shipyard's main power core. Before the Imperial sensors could even register their presence, the first quantum torpedoes launched. "Multiple direct hits," Park reported, his voice tight with controlled excitement. "Their shields are attempting to adapt, but they've never encountered this weapon's technology." The quantum torpedoes, developed in secret by Earth's best scientists, didn't so much penetrate the Imperial shields as ignore them completely. They operated on principles the Empire had never considered, using quantum entanglement to bypass traditional defenses. Emergency sirens began wailing across the shipyard as secondary explosions chained through the facility. Imperial crews rushed to battle stations, but their responses were based on outdated protocols that hadn't anticipated this type of attack. "First wave complete," Maya announced to the fleet. "Commence second wave targeting. Remember your training." The Nightshade's targeting computer highlighted critical infrastructure nodes identified by years of careful intelligence gathering. Each shot was precise, calculated to cause maximum strategic damage while minimizing civilian casualties. Humanity would not stoop to the Empire's level of callousness. Reports began streaming in from the other strike teams. Similar scenes played out across Imperial space as humanity's hidden fleet revealed itself in a synchronized dance of destruction. 30 shipyards, representing nearly 40% of the Empire's military production capability, burned in the night. "Imperial response ships incoming," Park warned. "Their flagship is launching. Time to show them our other surprise," Maya said. "Activate the FTL drive." The Nightshade's experimental faster-than-light drive engaged, allowing maneuvers that Imperial tactical doctrine had classified as impossible. The ship danced between incoming fire, its trajectory defying the Empire's understanding of physics. In orbit above Centauri Prime, the Imperial flagship brought its main guns to bear on empty space as the Nightshade and its sister ships vanished back into dimensional displacement. By the time the Empire realized the full extent of the damage, humanity's fleet was already gone, leaving behind a clear message: the era of Imperial superiority was over. In his quarters aboard the Imperial flagship, Admiral Zexkar received reports from all 30 targets. His breathing slits closed in shock as he realized the truth. The humans hadn't just struck at the Empire's shipyards. They had shattered the Empire's fundamental assumptions about their own technological supremacy. Governor Elena Rodriguez watched from the command center as New Terra's sky filled with Imperial warships. The massive invasion fleet darkened the morning sun, their hull plating gleaming with arrogance. 10,000 ships for a single colony world. The Empire was done playing games. "They're broadcasting their demands," Lieutenant Chen reported, his hand steady on the communications array. Young Marcus Wong's cousin had specifically requested assignment to humanity's most exposed colony. Standard Imperial ultimatum: immediate surrender or face planetary bombardment. Alina permitted herself a small smile. "Send them our prepared response." The message was simple, a single line of text reading, "Come and take it." Ancient words from Earth's history, now given new meaning among the stars. Admiral Zexkar's face appeared on the main screen, his scales flushed with anger. "You've been abandoned by Earth, Governor. Your defenses cannot hope to withstand the might of the Imperial fleet. Surrender now, and we will show mercy." "Interesting choice of words, Admiral," Alina replied calmly. "Considering what happened to our diplomatic mission." She nodded to Lieutenant Chen. "Activate the Chimera protocol." Across New Terra's surface, carefully hidden defense installations hummed to life. What the Empire's scans had detected as primitive missile silos and energy cannon emplacements were merely the surface layer of humanity's true defensive capabilities. "Multiple Imperial landing craft detected," the tactical officer announced. "They're deploying in standard conquest formation." Alina watched the Imperial ships arrange themselves according to doctrines unchanged for centuries. "Let them get comfortable. Wait for my mark." The first wave of Imperial bombers descended through the atmosphere, their weapons primed to soften up the colony's defenses. They never got the chance to fire. "Chimera protocol active," Lieutenant Chen reported. "Quantum field generators online." The air itself seemed to ripple as New Terra's hidden defenses revealed themselves. Quantum field generators, reverse-engineered from captured Imperial tech and enhanced by human innovation, created overlapping zones of altered physics. Imperial ships found their carefully plotted bombing runs disrupted as local space-time twisted around them. "Secondary defenses, engage," Alina ordered. Ground-based graviton cannons opened fire, their invisible beams causing Imperial ships to crumple like paper toys. Automated defense drones, smaller than fighter craft, but piloted by advanced AI, swarmed from hidden bunkers by the thousands. Imperial forces attempting to establish a beachhead in Sector 7. Tactical reported. Elena nodded to her communications officer. "Signal the militia. Show them what New Terra's citizens can do." Across the colony, civilians emerged from hardened shelters carrying advanced weaponry. Every human colony world had been designed from the ground up as a fortress, its population trained and ready for this moment. The Empire's ground forces found themselves facing not just military resistance, but an entire population prepared for war. "Their flagship is moving into position for orbital bombardment," Lieutenant Chen warned. "Perfect." Elena pressed her hand against the biosensor panel. "Execute Hydra response." Hidden orbital platforms, disguised as debris and asteroid fragments, activated simultaneously. The Empire's supposedly impenetrable flagship shields flickered and died as human-designed quantum disruptors tore holes in their defensive grid. Admiral Zexkar's face reappeared on the command screen, his composure finally cracking. "What is this?" "Your technology. This is impossible." "No, Admiral," Elena replied. "This is humanity. We've spent years studying your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. Every human world is a fortress, every citizen a soldier, every seeming weakness a trap. You thought to find easy prey, but you've walked into a nest of vigors." The battle raged for hours, but its outcome was never in doubt. By sunset, the mighty Imperial invasion fleet was in retreat, leaving behind thousands of captured troops and dozens of disabled capital ships. New Terra's casualties were minimal, its defenses mostly intact, its population proud and unbroken. In the command center, Elena composed her report to Earth Command. The Empire had tested humanity's defenses and found them unbreakable, but this was just the beginning. The real war was about to begin, and humanity was ready. Commander Yuki Tanaka moved through the shadows of the Imperial Command Station like a ghost, her stealth suit's adaptive camouflage rendering her nearly invisible. The station's security systems, designed to detect any known form of cloaking technology, remained silent. They weren't calibrated to detect the ancient arts of stealth combined with cutting-edge quantum technology. "Shadow team in position," she vocalized through the neural link. 3 other figures, equally invisible, confirmed their readiness in quick succession. Below them, Imperial officers coordinated fleet movements, completely unaware of the Earth Special Forces team in their midst. The massive holographic display showed Imperial task forces moving to contain human expansion. They had no idea they were about to lose control of their entire sector defense network. Team 2 reporting success, came the whispered voice of Major Singh. On the other side of the station, his Gurkha infiltration squad had already secured their target. Centuries of high-altitude warfare expertise had translated perfectly to space station operations. Yuki smiled beneath her mask. The Empire was about to learn that humanity didn't just have one way of fighting. They had thousands. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. In the station's lower levels, Sergeant Anna Petrovic's Russian cyber warfare team had already infiltrated the central computer core. Their quantum intrusion modules, disguised as standard maintenance updates, were spreading through the Imperial network like digital wildfire. "You would think," Anna muttered as her fingers danced across the holographic interface, "that an empire spanning thousands of worlds would have better cybersecurity. They never expected someone to hack them using code based on Earth's classical mathematics." The station's lights flickered briefly as Anna's team rewrote the command protocols. Imperial officers looked up in confusion, but their diagnostic systems reported everything as normal. The station's AI had already been compromised. "Phase 2 complete," Anna confirmed. "They're locked out of their own systems." In orbit around the station, Captain Mohammed al-Rashid watched from the bridge of his stealth corvette as the operation unfolded. His crew, composed of veterans from Earth's desert warfare units, had adapted their ancestors' raiding tactics to space combat with devastating effect. "Multiple Imperial vessels approaching," his sensor officer reported. "Standard patrol pattern." Mohammed smiled. "Let them come. Initiate Sandstorm Protocol." Dozens of microdrones, their surfaces coated with radar-absorbing materials developed from studying desert camouflage, activated around his ship. The Imperial patrol would see only sensor ghosts and false readings, an electronic sandstorm in space. Inside the station, Yuki's team reached their primary objective, the sector command center. 2 Imperial officers stood guard, their ceremonial armor a testament to centuries of unchanging tradition. They never saw the attack coming. "You know," Yuki whispered as she disabled the guards with neural shock patches, "my ancestors were ninja, and everyone thought their techniques would become obsolete. But it turns out the principles of stealth and deception work even better in space." The station's commander spun in his chair as Yuki's team materialized around him. His scales paled at the sight of human special forces appearing from thin air, their suits finally dropping their camouflage. "How?" he stammered. "Our sensors." "Your sensors work perfectly," Yuki replied, "for detecting what you expect to find. But humanity has been practicing the art of warfare since before your empire existed. We've just adapted our skills for a new battlefield." Throughout the sector, Imperial commanders watched in horror as their defense networks suddenly displayed Earth's ancient symbol for surrender, a white flag. The station's quantum communications array, now under human control, began broadcasting tactical data to the human fleet. From his corvette, Mohammed watched with satisfaction as the station's defenses powered down. Earth's combined military traditions, ninja stealth, Gurkha determination, Russian cyber warfare, desert raiding tactics, and countless others, had achieved in hours what the Empire had thought impossible. In her command center on Earth, Admiral Santos received the success signal. The Empire was about to discover that humanity's greatest military strength wasn't their technology or numbers, but their infinite capacity to adapt ancient wisdom to new frontiers. Dr. Aisha Rahman watched the holographic replay of New Eden's destruction for the 100th time. The Imperial Dreadnought's weapon had torn through the colony's shields like paper, reducing 3 million lives to atoms in seconds. Her sister had been among them, teaching quantum physics to the colony's children until that final moment. "They thought this would break us," she whispered, her fingers tracing equations in the air as the quantum computer processed another simulation. "Instead, they gave us clarity." The laboratory deep beneath Earth's Himalayas hummed with energy as the world's brightest minds worked to solve the puzzle of Imperial shield technology. The Empire had made a crucial mistake. They had shown humanity their full strength, expecting surrender. Instead, they had given Earth's scientists exactly the data they needed. Dr. Rahman, Michael O'Connor, her youngest researcher, burst into the lab. "The quantum simulations, they're showing a pattern we missed." Aisha's eyes widened as she studied the new data. The Empire's shields operated on principles they had thought immutable, but there was a flaw in their fundamental assumptions. A flaw that humanity, with its history of questioning established physics, was uniquely positioned to exploit. "Get me Admiral Santos," she ordered, "and wake up every quantum research team from Beijing to Boston." In orbit, aboard the ESS Phoenix, Admiral Santos received the transmission with growing excitement. "You're certain about this? The Empire's entire defensive doctrine is based on their shield technology," Aisha explained, her hologram flickering with urgency. "They haven't improved it in centuries because they thought they had reached theoretical perfection. But they never considered quantum tunneling on a macro scale." The Admiral's tactical display updated with the new data. "How soon can we implement this?" "We've already modified the first prototype. Permission to demonstrate." Santos nodded, and on her screen, a test drone equipped with the new quantum penetrator field approached a captured Imperial shield barrier. Instead of being deflected or destroyed, it passed through as if the shield didn't exist. "My God," Santos breathed. "Can we scale this up?" "Every human ship can be retrofitted within weeks," Aisha confirmed. "We're transmitting the specifications now. The Empire's greatest defense is about to become irrelevant." The news spread through human space like wildfire. In shipyards and research stations, engineers worked around the clock to implement the new technology. The Empire had thought to break human resolve with a show of overwhelming force. Instead, they had catalyzed humanity's greatest technological leap forward. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Admiral Santos watched the tactical display as the first retrofitted fleet assembled. The ship's new quantum signatures pulsed with potential, each one now capable of bypassing the Empire's supposedly impenetrable defenses. "Message from Earth Command," her communications officer reported. "All major population centers have been evacuated to hardened shelters. Our industrial base has been completely decentralized. Even if they strike Earth directly, we'll survive and fight back." Santos nodded grimly. The Empire's attempt to terrorize humanity had failed spectacularly. Instead of cowering in fear, humans had done what they did best: adapt, innovate, and prepare to strike back. "Send word to all commands," she ordered. "Operation Phoenix is now active." Across human space, ships and stations acknowledged the order. The counterattack would begin within hours. The Empire was about to learn that humanity's response to tragedy wasn't fear, it was determination. In her laboratory, Aisha added the final calculations to her quantum equations. The hologram of New Eden's destruction played one last time before she shut it off. Her sister's sacrifice, and those of millions of others, would not be in vain. "They thought they were teaching us our place in the galaxy," she said softly. "Instead, they taught us exactly how to defeat them. Let's show them what humanity does in its darkest hour." The quantum computers hummed with purpose as humanity prepared to demonstrate that its greatest strength wasn't just technology or numbers. It was the ability to turn tragedy into triumph, defeat into determination, and loss into unstoppable momentum. Governor Kira Valen watched from her palace balcony as human ships appeared in Proxima Iola's atmosphere. Her scales shifted color with anxiety, not fear of the humans, but of the Empire's response when they learned she had already decided to surrender. The Empire had abandoned her people to their fate, withdrawing their fleet to protect their core worlds. "The human delegation has landed, Governor," her aide announced. "They're requesting an immediate audience." In the palace's grand hall, Kira found herself face to face with Captain James Chen, brother of the murdered ambassador. She expected hatred in his eyes, but found only determination and something unexpected: compassion. "Governor Valen," Chen began, "we bring terms not of subjugation, but of alliance. Your people need not suffer for the Empire's crimes." Across her desk, a hologram displayed scenes from other Imperial worlds where humans had already arrived. She saw Imperial citizens receiving medical aid, damaged infrastructure being rebuilt, and local governments maintaining autonomy under human protection. "The Empire told us you were savages," Kira said softly, "that you would destroy everything we built. Yet I see the opposite." "We remember our own history," Chen replied. "The cycle of vengeance only breeds more violence. We're here to break that cycle." On the Imperial capital world of Nexus Prime, High Commander Zextal received the reports with growing horror. World after world, system after system, the Empire's grip was slipping. Not just from human advances, but from within. "The Arcturus sector is in open rebellion," his aide reported. "They're using human quantum communication technologies to coordinate their forces. 3 more systems have declared independence in the past hour." Zextal's breathing slits flared with rage. The humans weren't just defeating Imperial forces, they were dismantling the very foundation of Imperial power. Each world they took became an example to others, a beacon of possibility that inspired more defections. Aboard the EFS Redemption, Admiral Santos received updates from across the front. The Alliance of Free Worlds, as the liberated systems were calling themselves, grew stronger by the day. Imperial defense tactics, unchanged for centuries, crumbled before the combined might of human innovation and local knowledge. "Message from the Centaurian Resistance," her communications officer reported. "Their orbital platforms have turned against the Imperial garrison. They're requesting assistance to secure the system." Santos smiled. The Empire's rigid command structure was proving to be its greatest weakness. Unable to adapt to rapidly changing circumstances, Imperial commanders found themselves facing not just human forces, but their own rebellious populations. In a secret facility on Proxima II, Dr. Rahman worked with local scientists, sharing knowledge that the Empire had hoarded for centuries. "Your quantum theories actually complement our own research," a Proximan physicist exclaimed. "The Empire told us collaboration would weaken us, but they were wrong." The revolution spread like wildfire through the quantum communication network. Species that had been enemies under Imperial rule found common ground in their desire for freedom. Human diplomatic teams, led by survivors of the New Eden attack, helped forge alliances between former rivals. On 1,000 worlds, the Empire's carefully maintained hierarchy collapsed. Junior officers, seeing the futility of resistance, surrendered their commands. Imperial citizens, taught to fear other species, discovered that cooperation brought prosperity their masters had never allowed. Captain Chen stood with Governor Valen as Proxima Iola's new defense fleet took shape, a mixture of human and local vessels, crewed by both species working together. "Your people have an incredible talent for energy manipulation," he observed, "combined with our quantum technology." "We're stronger together," Kira finished. "The Empire kept us apart because they feared exactly this, that we would discover our strength through unity." In the void between stars, Imperial supply lines fractured as more worlds declared their independence. The Empire had spent millennia building walls between species. Humanity's greatest victory wasn't their military strength, but their ability to show the galaxy another way forward. The Empire's millennium of dominance was ending not with a bang, but with a cascade of awakening minds and opening hearts. The revolution they had feared most wasn't one of weapons, but of ideas. The skies above Nexus Prime blazed with the light of battle as humanity's combined fleet, alongside their newfound allies, engaged the Empire's last defensive line. Admiral Santos stood on the bridge of the EF's Phoenix, watching as centuries of Imperial dominance crumbled before an alliance they had never thought possible. Arcturus battle groups report all objectives secured, her tactical officer announced. The Proximan energy fleet has disabled their orbital defense grid. Quantum shields are down across the capital sector. Through the main viewport, Santos watched Imperial ships attempting to adapt to the combined tactics of a dozen different species. Human quantum drives worked in perfect synchronization with Proximan energy weapons, while Arcturan gravity manipulators created corridors of altered spacetime through which Allied ships danced with deadly grace. They still don't understand, Santos mused. Even now, they think this is just about military strength. On the planet's surface, in the same hall where Ambassador Chen had died, David Chen led the ground assault. His quantum-enhanced strike team moved like ghosts through the Imperial Palace's defenses, joined by resistance fighters from a dozen worlds. Security hub secured, Marcus Wong reported through the Neuralink, his hoverchair's advanced systems interfacing perfectly with the Palace's network. Downloading their command protocols now. Everything they tried to hide about Sarah's assassination. We're getting it all. David touched the memorial pin on his chest, a quantum crystal containing a hologram of his wife. This was never about revenge, he subvocalized. This was about making sure no species ever suffers under their tyranny again. In orbit, the Phoenix's sensors detected a massive energy spike from the surface. The Imperial High Command had activated their ultimate weapon, a quantum resonance device capable of destroying entire fleets. Let them try, Dr. Raman's voice came through the command channel. Her combined research team of human and alien scientists had anticipated this moment. Show them what true cooperation can achieve. As the weapon's energy pulse expanded outward, thousands of ships across the Allied fleet activated their synchronized quantum fields. The destructive wave passed harmlessly through their formation, its energy redirected and dispersed by technologies that could only work through perfect coordination between species. High Commander Zextal watched in disbelief from his command bunker as his last weapon failed. Impossible, he breathed. Our scientists said no defense was possible. Your scientists worked alone, David Chen answered, stepping out of the shadows with his team. Ours worked together. That's the difference you never understood. The surrender ceremony took place where it all began, in the Grand Assembly Hall. But this time, the chamber was filled with representatives from every species of the former empire, each one a free and equal voice in the new Galactic Federation. Admiral Santos stood at the podium where Sarah Chen had died, but now the podium's quantum crystal surface displayed the new Federation's charter. The age of empire is over, she declared. Not because humanity defeated you, but because we showed the galaxy a better way forward. Governor Valen, now the Federation's first council speaker, raised her hand in agreement. Through humanity, we learned that true strength comes not from dominance, but from unity. Not from fear, but from hope. David Chen watched as the former Imperial leaders signed the charter, their signatures merging with those of 100 other species. In the quantum crystal at his chest, Sarah's hologram smiled. The new Galactic Federation headquarters would be built around the memorial to those lost in humanity's first contact with the Empire. But it would not be a monument to victory in war. Instead, it would stand as a reminder that the greatest power in the universe wasn't technology or weapons or even courage. It was the ability to turn enemies into allies, fear into friendship, and conflict into cooperation. As the Federation's new flag rose above Nexus Prime for the first time, Admiral Santos thought of all the lives lost and changed in the journey to this moment. The Empire had sought to teach humanity its place in the galaxy. Instead, they had learned that humanity's true place was not as conquerors or subjects, but as architects of a future where all species could reach for the stars together.